Welcome back, Leos. We are here to do a deep dive reading for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by pulling 5 Lenormand cards. Those are going to be sort of our leader topics that we're going to be diving into. So far, this is kind of a new thing that I've been doing. And so you are the 2, 3, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. Yeah, you're the 4th one I've done like this. And so normally all these topics kind of lead into each other, but not in such a way that you can read the Lenormand cards that we pull as the toppers for this as like an overall for this reading. So I would recommend that you don't try to do that. I mean, you guys are going to do whatever you're going to do, but I'm not expecting that way of looking at this particular reading to be super accurate because we are going to get a lot more details. First topic we're going to talk about is going to be about your reputation, maybe your career. Second topic is going to be about something that is being chewed away, or maybe something that you are actually getting rid of. We could be getting rid of old thought patterns that aren't so good. We could be getting rid of psychic vampires. So lots of things that we could be getting rid of or having, getting kind of chewed away or eroded away that could be good for us. So we'll see how it turns out. And our next topic is what? Oh, the message. We've got the writer showing up here. So we've got some kind of message coming in that Spirit's going to want to talk about. And then after that, what is our next topic? For Leos, we have the snake. The snake can be about doing things in a roundabout way or kind of an indirect way. The snake can also be somebody who is seductive. They can really just pull you right in. It can also be about, somebody who is a little sneaky or underhanded. It's interesting to me that usually it's associated with a woman. We don't have a card that talks about a sneaky or underhanded man, but we've got a card for a sneaky or underhanded woman. I don't get that because I think people of both genders have full capability of all of the good and all of the bad. That's just me. That's just my experience as a reader. Having that little inside view of other people's lives plus my own experiences. All right, and last topic is the mountain. The mountain can talk about something happening that is in the mountains, somebody living in the mountains. It can be something that is far away, or it can be some kind of obstacle. We're going to see a little bit more about that as we go through this spread. So that Lenormand spread is by Chiro Marchetti. I believe it's the Gilded Lenormand. I think what I'm using is called the Gilded Reverie Tarot, also by Chiro Marchetti. And then to clarify, we'll be using a straight up old school Rider-Waite. So I'm not going to read all of these all together. These are going to kind of lead into each other. And they're going to, we're going to follow whatever this story is. We're going to follow this story all the way through for about 28, 30 days, something like that is what I'm giving it for this. So let's put these other cards aside so that we can focus on this card that talks about your reputation. Reputation. Are you a star? Is that your reputation that you're a star? Let's find out. What does Sacred Spirit want to say? What do you want to say about Leo's reputation? Leos can be very famous. Of course, that depends a lot on all kinds of different placements, but still, Leos like attention. They sort of gravitate towards positions that give them attention. So I think this is kind of appropriate for you, especially with the Leo in the sun right now. So looking at your reputation, what would you like to tell Leos about their reputation for this reading? Okay. All right. Oh, excuse me. And reputation a lot of times is associated with career, but it doesn't have to be. But for astrology. Usually, usually reputation and career go together. So could very well be that your reputation is in your career with this star card coming out. Let's see. How are you known to other people? What we've got going on here with this Three of Wands, we see you really just kind of going with the flow. You're not making any long-term plans in regards to your reputation out in the world. Just kind of going with the flow of how things are. We do see that you have some good messages, a good message coming in about money or about material goods. This could be that maybe you're finding out that you've got a job if you've been a job seeker. This could also be somebody letting you know that you've qualified for a bonus or something like that. Some kind of good news about money or material goods. So we like that, having to do with your reputation. And then right next to that, we do have the Eight of Cups coming up in reverse. Now, this is really interesting because it talks about walking back to something that you walked away from in the past because it was leaving you exhausted or depleted. Now, we can only hope that if you're walking back, you're expecting that this is going to be a better situation than before. So I think there's something going on with your reputation. You've been kind of riding the waves, going with the flow, doing things as they come along, taking up those opportunities as they come along. We do have some good news about money or material goods. And I think there's something about this good news that has you going back to something from the past that you had walked away from before because it was a little overwhelming in one way or another. Maybe this is a company that's pretty rough to work at, but they've got an amazing re-sign-on bonus. Or maybe it's in a similar field as before and there's an amazing sign-on bonus. Or it could be that, your reputation could be around a hobby that you have and somebody offers to give you money around this hobby. That could be, and that would have you going back to an old situation, being lured in basically by the money, honey. We saw that snake earlier. That snake talks about being lured in. I don't know if it's going to play in on this or not, but does make me kind of wonder. So let's look at your best advice around this part of the situation. We're going back to something, kind of going with the flow, going back to something. Don't necessarily have a plan, but going back to something because there's some kind of word about good benefit to doing so to your financial resources. Oh, now this is really interesting. Look at this. We've got our Three of Wands in reverse again in a different deck, coming up right in the same spread. Now this is wild. Okay, so this Three of Wands, talking about going with the flow, this tells me here that you've been improving a situation where there was a shakeup before in your reputation. So your reputation could have taken some kind of hit. Maybe you got fired. Maybe somebody was saying something slanderous. Maybe you did something that you wished you wouldn't have, but somehow your reputation took a hit. We don't know how, just based on this card. And it is a general reading, so that's not going to be the same for everybody anyway. So we're not necessarily looking at that. I'm assuming you know what I'm talking about. If you don't now, you will in a few days or less. Now, with the Tower card coming up in reverse, this basically says we're getting over something that was a shakeup to our reputation. And it's good to know that you're coming out on top. This isn't just surviving, but this is actually improving your situation. Now, we have the Queen of Cups coming up in reverse. I think that when you first get word about this idea that you could have an improved situation when it comes to resources back with this old thing, I think that at first thing you're doing, you're having a fit. You're saying, no way, not doing it, not going to do that at all. And then with this Three of Wands coming in right over that Eight of Cups in reverse, I think you change your mind. I think you say, well, let's give it a try. Let's see how long I stick around there this time. I do think you're giving it some kind of try. And I think the money is the lure here, basically. So this is the insight or the advice here. If I was going to see this as advice, I would see this as after you have regulated your emotions, then maybe give this another chance after all, okay? And walk back to this. So I don't see this walk back as being terrible, at least not yet. But it makes me a little bit, I wonder about that a little bit because we had that Tower in reverse, which means you were recovering from some kind of shakeup. If that shakeup came from the place you're walking back to, then I'm kind of questioning Why are we walking back to that? All right, let's look at the mice and see what Spirit has to tell us about the mice for you guys. Tell me about the mice for Leo. And remember, this is where something's getting chewed away or eroded. Something is going away kind of more gradually. Let's see what this is that's being gradually eroded or chewed away when we have the mice card show up. What is that about? Tell us about that. This is interesting. I like that this is getting chewed away. I think what's getting chewed away or what's being eroded is this idea that you've sort of had to let some things fall through the cracks. And I think you've let some things fall through the cracks because probably your budget wasn't working the way you wanted it to work. But you've got this Seven of Swords here. There's somebody who is doing something that is deceptive. And I think they're taking away from your paydays or they're slowing down your paydays. There's something going on here where somebody is trying to hold on to some of your money. They're trying to say, oh, and maybe that's the shakeup. They're trying to say, oh, well, we already paid you for this. Didn't you already get that check? And you're saying, no, I did not. And you need to cut that check. I don't know. Do employers even cut checks anymore? I don't know, but you guys get what I mean, I hope. Let's see. Otherwise, I'm just showing my age. So anyway, basically what's being chewed through is that this is being chewed through. This idea that somebody is basically taking money from you or trying to take money from you is being chewed through. So I think you're working through this. And this could very well be why there was a shakeup having to do with your reputation. If this was at work and they were always scamming on your paycheck and your paycheck was always short and you had to jump up and down all the time, every time, this idea that you walked away from them may be really putting them on notice that, hey, we can't keep doing that to Leos. Let's see what your best advice or heads up is in this particular situation. Remember, we saw you kind of walking away and then walking back. You were actually getting in pretty good shape before you walked back into this. So I'm going to say whatever this is, I think that you really like this as far as how it supports your reputation. You actually enjoy doing it. The pay thing is kind of a, what do you call that? A non-negotiable though. All right, let's look at best advice or insight around this. Yes, you're definitely happy at whatever this was. I don't think you're really expecting that they're going to totally fix the pay situation. Not with that star coming up in reverse over our Seven of Pentacles here. But I do see you actually, there's something very happiness making about walking back into this other situation. There's a lot that's happiness making about the idea of this coming to an end. And it may be that as you're going back into the situation, maybe you're going in because somebody's telling you, look, we've got pay figured out. That's not going to be happening. That can make you really happy. We have you coming in as the King of Wands. Now that's you. You're showing up straight up in your spread. Any Wands court card is going to be your card, and I'm considering that to be you operating fully in your mojo. I think you're happy. I think you're operating in your mojo at this situation. We've got the Star card coming up in reverse. This basically is telling me that they may have told you that this situation is cleared up. But I think what you're finding, you're happy to be back. You're happy to be doing what you do. I think what you're finding is that it's not really cleared up after all once you go back there. You're seeing that it's not really been fixed like they think it's been fixed. So that's a heads up for around that. I can see why you went back now because you're obviously very happy with whatever that is that supports your reputation, whether that's a job or whether that's something else. Now let's move on to our third topic card. We have a messenger, courier actually. You can see she's got the little leather courier bag at her side. So somebody coming in with a message for you. Let's see what this message is. Tell me more about this message for Leos, please. And this is going to be transpiring over the next 30 days. For some of you, it may happen a little faster, for some a little slower. But generally speaking, this will happen over the next 30 days. So tell me about this messenger for Leo, or this courier for Leo. What do they need to know about that, please? Please, please. One time my dad was looking at my videos. He came to visit me in Colorado. And I said, do you want to see a sample of one of the weekly videos? This was years ago. This is probably 2017, 2016. A long time ago. My dad's a Sagittarius. So is my mom. But my dad's first name is, his middle name is Leo. But in his family, they use that as his first name. And so I sat him down and I started playing the Leo video for him, which obviously is not the same as Sagittarius. And at the end of it, he told me, he says, well, that actually really resonated for me. So you never know what's actually going to resonate for you exactly. I just thought that was interesting, and I don't know why I just had that pop up, but I'm sure for somebody that's going to mean something helpful. Now, what do we have about this writer? First of all, this messenger, we have the Valet de Coups. This is a message that you are sending, and you're letting somebody know how much you appreciate them. We have the Two of Swords. This is a decision. And this talks about manifestation with the Magician here. So it looks to me like, even though the pay is not fully straightened out just yet, I think you are expressing appreciation to somebody for deciding to have you come back to this thing that supports your reputation, whether it's a job or otherwise. I think you're expressing, this is you with the message. You're sending this message to somebody, and you're letting them know, how you feel about things, how you feel about their decision to bring you back in as somebody who can do what needs to be done. Maybe they call you the Magician. Maybe you do things that nobody else can do there. Maybe not, but it's still a decision to allow you to come back and manifest here. And I think you're expressing your appreciation on that. Now, that's what the writer says. What's your best insight or heads up about this? This is nice. Look at this. Oh, this is wonderful, actually. So see here, we've got the star coming up. Before we had the star in reverse, which basically said, which is not to be confused with the star in Lenormand, complete different meaning. But we had the star in reverse, which basically said something's not healed up. You weren't feeling very good about the money by the time we got to the end of this one. Now it looks like things are healed up. You may have said something to somebody like, I did not come back to have the same thing happen that was happening before. I think they're healing this up. And this is you expressing appreciation for them actually taking care of that. Now, Lovers, right over the decision. I think what's going on here, you're making that decision that, you know what, okay, I will officially come back onto this company. You may have been doing something kind of probationary, kind of just to wait and see what happens. I think here you've decided, okay, I am coming back to this. 10 of Swords coming up here tells me that there's a long-term source of tension or debate that is now over with this 10 of Swords. So this really is a double verification that the pay situation has been straightened out by the time we get to this point in the reading, which is about midway through. So about 2 weeks through is when I'm expecting that you're going to feel like, okay, I can trust these people to partner up with them, and that their pay situation is really over. This can be, manifesting that idea that the pay situation is over. This is definitely you making the decision to come back on board officially. Okay. Now, whether you're coming back on board, I don't know. Maybe they have a probation period, but you're making up your mind at this time. Like I said, about 2 weeks from today. And this is going to be published May 7th. So about 2 weeks from May 7th. All right, now, next topic we're going to look at is the snake. Remember I told you the snake could be doing things in a roundabout way? This could have to do with a female. If it is a female, it's a seductive female. It can be somebody who's a little lying and manipulative, somebody who's even passive-aggressive because they say things in a roundabout way. And honestly, for my purposes, it does not have to be a female. I think that's ridiculous that we have a really lion sneaky card that's only female. Not buying it. Just not buying it. I've seen too much in my life that yeah. I don't know. I think I've seen just about as many lying sneaky females as males, so we're not gonna say that's only women. But there is something going on here. We're going to find out more about what this actually is, if it is a person or if this is a situation. What is this exactly that's happening in a roundabout way or that's seductive, that's kind of tempting you? Let's see. Let's see. Do you notice, by the way, the apples on this card? All the references to the Garden of Eden? Boopity doo doo. Justice is coming in a roundabout way. That's interesting. Hmm. I'm just feeling around in this. That's why I'm being so quiet right now. I don't think of justice as being something that happens in a roundabout way. That's why it kind of has me floored, because justice is something that's legal. You know, there has to be documents, everybody has to be able to read them. That's not so much roundabout. Doesn't have to be legal, but it's definitely a decision. And with the Lady Justice coming up right side up, this is a decision that's made in a fair way. It's not corrupt. It's not a bad decision. So, what do we have going on? Doesn't have to be court, but there's some kind of decision here that's being made. And with the Six of Swords, I think that this decision that's being made has to do with the lifestyle change. And this lifestyle change has to do with making the home a happy home or a happy family home. There could be somebody that was trying to get in between a relationship between you and another family member with that snake card. And you could be deciding right here, like, I'm not having that. You don't get to talk bad about that person to me. Doing the lifestyle change could be, I'm not talking to this person anymore because I'm focusing on my home and my family, and I want that to be right. I want that to be good. I'm not going to let somebody throw me off. This could be a mother-in-law. This could be a third party, potentially. But it also could be things like a mother-in-law or a gossiping friend or something like that. And of either party, I don't really have an indication of which party this person is connected to. Here, though, I do see that this person, there's a decision being made that we're changing lifestyle. We're not going to be listening to that person anymore or influenced by that person anymore. We're focusing on happy home life, happy life within our tribe, within our family. All right, let's look at your best advice for this. What is your best advice here? Best advice for my Leos with this situation, please. What do we have? Or insight. Well, this certainly took a twist on me here. This has to do with focusing. There may be a whole lot of options, but this is about focusing on one, choosing one to focus on. A lot of options that make your life better. Which one are you going to choose? All right. The moon really talks about that everything really kind of isn't as it seems with all of these options here. So I think you're focusing on one. And I think what you're doing is you're eliminating really the same thing I got with this. You're eliminating anything that competes with the idea of a happy family or a happy home, whether that's a third party or, you know, the mother-in-law that's driving people crazy or whatever. I think whatever this is not a healthy competition. I think you're getting rid of that. You're cutting that out. You're cutting that out. And I think you're looking at all the options you have and you're realizing that all these options, there's a lot of illusion around them. They aren't everything they're all cut out to be. And so I am dropping anything that competes with me being able to give my energy and my efforts to my home life or to my tribe, to my people who are important to me. Interesting. I'm not sure that ties in with the reputation at all. So we may have two different topics going so far here. In fact, I want to separate them. All right, and then the last topic card we have is the mountain. The mountain talks about something as a distance or something that might be an obstacle. Let's take a peek at it. What do we have? What do we have? What do we have? What do we have? For Leo, what do they need to know about this mountain card? Boop-a-doo. Hey. Well, that's nice. Not so nice. Okay, so this mountain card is kind of living up to its idea as an obstacle. It's interesting, though, because we start off with a really nice card here, and then we move into disappointment and we move into second-guessing ourselves. It's almost like something starts to go really well, like we really start to come over this mountain, come around this obstacle, or over this obstacle, and then we realize, oh, wait, there's something that's disappointing about this situation. Now we're second guessing. Do we even want to put energy and effort to come around this obstacle? Is it worth our energy and effort? Is it worth our time? Okay, so let's look at, I think this is tied in with our snake too. It's like we're trying to get rid of any kind of distractions, and we're doing pretty well at it, and people are appreciating that we're doing well at least at first, and then we're realizing this is really disappointing. Now we're second guessing. Is it really worth us coming over this obstacle? Let's see what our best advice or insight is here. Best advice or insight for Leo. Make a strategy here. The King of Swords talks about making a strategy. King of Swords is the best person at making a strategy, coming up with a plan and following through with it. So this is talking about really have a strategy about this whole situation. Excuse me. Have a strategy about this whole situation moving forward. Here we see you second guessing again. We really only second guess things if we have something that is limiting us right here. Something that is our perspective is limiting us. So if you can kind of step back and be more objective, then you can walk away from the second guessing things. But you're second guessing things here, and I think what you're really second guessing, you're doing that because of this disappointment. What you're really second guessing is this idea of the partnership. I think maybe we had a partnership that was going on here where it needed more attention. And now you're like, you know what, I'm kind of second guessing if it's worth the energy and effort to try to save this partnership. And where we see you here, we see you making this plan and then questioning, oh my gosh, is this really worth it? What if it really ends up that, after all this energy and effort, me and this person are no longer partners anymore, whether that's romantic or business partners or whatever. I'm going to say for you Leos, honestly, like this seems like a complicated situation. And I am going to say I think it does impact your reputation over here. I don't know that it's directly tied to it, but it's going to impact it for sure. And I would say that if you're resonating with this reading, it's probably not a bad idea to get a reading and figure out what you really need to do in this situation. Of course, I would be happy to read for you. If you have a reader, though, that you really trust and that has a good track record with you, of course, go with that person. If you, but, I would be happy to read for you and kind of sort out, like, is this really worth it? Do I really want to do this? Do I really want to deal with this obstacle moving forward? I would be happy to read for you on that. And I think that's going to be different for everybody. Otherwise, we would have an answer right here. We don't have an answer right here. So I think that's going to be different for the different Leos because there's going to be slight, nuances to each situation. All right, so that's what I've got for you guys. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. I do appreciate it. Obviously, I do offer private readings. You can check out my website to see all my other services as well. You may want to sign up for my newsletter if you have not done that already. I do predictions for every week in the newsletter for every sign. And I will see you guys back on the next video. Don't forget, hit the bell icon so you can catch me live. Peace.